Good evening, everyone. It's about time I made another video, so, and I actually have things to make a video about. So, here we go. Well, now that I've had a job, I actually have some money to do things with, so I've been getting materials and stuff like that, and I've been working on projects. A few of them are still secret, so I can't actually tell you about them, but you'll see eventually. But I do have things that I can show you, and when I was out yesterday buying things at Harbor Freight, and I also went to Toys R Us because I figured I might as well because I had some money and I haven't seen in person any of the Elite line yet, and I picked up a Retaliator, which I like a great deal. I think this is probably my favorite stock blaster since the long shot, and well, it's not stock anymore. I took the air restrictor out, and that was about all I needed to do to give it almost comparable ranges to the long shot, my general purpose long shot, which I stuck a Raider spring in and put a little piece of brass in the breech to give it a better seal. But this thing is pretty darn good. I like it a lot. It's very comfortable. I mean, a lot of people complain about the stock being small, but I'm not a particularly big guy, so it works for me. I might make a wooden extension for it and paint it blue and white, because I actually have acrylic blue and white paint. But I might do that, depending on stuff. And I think I'm going to make this into a pump grip, because it would make it just that much better. And if I can get back to SCAD for HVZ this coming year, this will be one of the things I use. And I do like the Elite darts very much. They're significantly an improvement to the Streamlines. They're not perfect, but, you know, what can you expect? I actually took one apart, and here is what I got. Here's the foam. I just cut it in half. And then, that's not particularly impressive. I mean, blue is nice, but, you know, here's the head, which, as you can see, is significantly shorter than a regular Streamline. And it's actually, I cut this in half, and you can see, when I pull it open, it's orange on the top, and it's white at the bottom. And I think this white stuff might be a bit denser than the regular rubber. I don't know exactly. But there's also the piece at the very tip is a bit thicker. I don't know if you can see that on this camera. It's not particularly good. But the tip is thicker. The whole thing is significantly denser and harder. But it flies quite a bit straighter than a regular Streamline. So they did a pretty good job there. Wouldn't hurt to put a little bit of weight in the dart just to make sure it works beautifully. But how did I get purple marker on my finger? Whatever. But yes, I like the Elite darts very much. And the Elite series in general looks to be pretty decent. I mean, well, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of Raiders, just the way they look. I'm sure the Rampage will be fine. The Hailfire, meh, but the Retaliator, definitely worth picking up if you can get off to Toys R Us. I actually have some darts in here. Might as well fire off a few. So here's the first two darts I have in here. Oh, another thing, which is really cool about these. This is another thing I don't know if you'll be able to see on this camera. But in here, the regular barrels for the Recon and everything else so far have been just straight. You probably know that there's little ridges in here. They don't really help anything. They just give it a bit more texture and detail in there. But on these, they're rifled, which is really cool. I don't know if you can actually see that. But these barrels are rifled on the inside, which doesn't really help because the barrel doesn't have any actual dart fit. It's significantly larger than the actual dart itself, but it's still really cool looking. Oh, and when I was testing this, I was getting okay ranges when I was firing it straight. Flat, maybe 50 or so feet, which is pretty respectable, and that was stock. But then whenever I was firing it at an angle, I was getting upwards of 75 feet, maybe 80. And that was very nice. And the air restrictor out gave it a bit more range. But that was the impressive thing about that is that that was actually with the barrel extension on. It didn't seem to hurt it at all. Or at least, well, I haven't tested it without the barrel extension yet, which means, honestly, it was getting pretty darn good ranges with the barrel extension, so I don't see why I should bother taking it off, because it looks cool. I really like the way the Retaliator looks. Plus, I like this color scheme better than the orange and yellow that they had going on. I think they're making a bit of a return, possibly, to the way the long shot looked originally, so that would be pretty sweet. It'd be interesting if they released some red Retaliators and Rampages. That would be very interesting. Like if they did that just at Walmart. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe they will, maybe they won't. Who am I to speculate? But here we go. I don't know if you'll be able to... Yeah, I'll cover up that light. That was one of the glow-in-the-darks. That's interesting. The clip just fell out! But here I have the rest of the elite darts. Well, actually... That's another thing. The clip just falls out beautifully. Sometimes, though, I hit the mag release and the clip release instead of the trigger by accident, which is unfortunate. Another thing I'm noticing at just this range, which is probably not much more than 20 feet, the glow-in-the-dark streamlines that I was firing dipped quite a bit further down, maybe upwards of a foot further down than the elite streamlines just did, so that's pretty sweet stuff. And I took the locks out when I was in there, because locks suck. And there's no point keeping those things in there, it doesn't help. Anyway, onwards from the elite stuff, another project that I'm working on, which I'm not actually going to show you anything. Well, I'm going to show you one thing, which will give you just the barest hint of the power that I'm working with, but it's not a Nerf project, just so you guys know. But this is a project which you shall see develop over the next few months, I hope, if I can actually get it working. And the only hint that I'm going to give you for now is this. This is a 300-pound, like a porch swing spring. This thing is ridiculous. I mean, this thing just has crazy power out the wazoo. And the thing about this is, it's actually a regular compression spring if you take these things out. But I'm actually going to be keeping these in for the project that I'm working on, which you shall see in time. But, as I said earlier, before I went to Toys R Us, I went to Harbor Freight, which is a tool company. They sell tools and they're very cheap, but they seem to be more or less decent for that actual price, which is pretty darn good, because I don't have a ton of money. I mean, I have a job, but I like to save money anyway. And while I was there, I got something that I've wanted for quite a while, ever since I've started getting into swordsmithing and all that sort of junk, and that is a belt sander, which I will show you now. Let's see, turning this around. Now you can see the top of it, but there's the rest. Well, let me turn this a bit further. There you go. This is a belt sander. This is 4 inches by 36 inches, which means it's 4 inches wide and 36 inches long total length. And it's also got a disc here, which basically there's a metal plate and this disc just sticks onto it. It's got like glue. I don't know if I'm going to really use that very much, but this thing is very useful for sanding down edges on blades, which I've done a bit of so far. This thing, I sanded down quite a bit of that with this. And I've still got some work to finish on this, but you'll see that later. And in conjunction with my angle grinder, which I have over here, which actually has a grinding wheel on it right now, in conjunction with the angle grinder and this bench grinder over here, this is going to be very useful. Yeah, the only belts I've been able to find for it so far are 80 grit and 120 grit, but if I can find finer belts than that, I'll certainly try to find them. You see there, spinning. The only thing that I don't really like about this, and this is purely a cosmetic thing that would be kind of neat if it did is this thing doesn't really throw off sparks as it works with metal. But that's no biggie. I mean, it still does the work just fine. And that's all I can really think of to talk about right now. So, in the meantime, I will bid you guys adieu, and hope you have a fantastic day wherever you are, and just have a great day.